Hey y'all, this is Stephanie of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. This episode is dedicated to the life, love, and memory of my auntie, Marjorie Harder. I lost her, my family lost her last month, and it's been pretty hard, but at the same time, the thing that's carrying me through are all of the memories of love and encouragement that she gave me throughout my adult life and even now. Um, I can feel and hear certain things that she would say about some of the choices that I would make and just how encouraging she was to me whenever I decided to do something new or something unique or going out of town and experiencing life outside of, the realms of the city of Birmingham. And I am so grateful that I have an ancestor like her watching over me constantly, along with my other ancestors and family members who are on the other side. And I wanted to dedicate this episode, Paint the Town Purple, to her because purple was her favorite color, and purple continues to be a color of royalty and something and a color that continues to be present in almost everything that I do and also everything that the Hardy Wrestling Podcast has. And just period, it is a color of love, of beauty, of royalty, and of regality. And that is something that she absolutely had throughout her entire life and something that she exuded in her entire life. So, Auntie, and I hope that I can continue to make you proud. We're good down here, but I love you so much. This is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, so I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of this fabulous platform and network, I guess you could say, contributing writer for Daily DDT and color commentator, featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. I'm so happy to be with you guys on this Sunday afternoon to talk about everything in wrestling that has happened this week while also telling a little bit of a story about something that I'm passionate about. As for those who may follow me on social media or whatnot, times have been tough. But of course, the thing that has kept me sustained is love and is support from people who really, care and love me and stuff like that. So I'm really grateful to y'all. Like the holiday season has been a little bit crazy because I've been dealing with a lot of growth in my own personal life, but I am feeling hopeful about what's next and what's to come in the next year. Christmas is almost here and it's insane to think about, but yeah, this is where we're at in the world. But I'm so happy to be on here to talk about wrestling. Now, normally I would be doing news and gossipish here, but this is actually where I'm going to put a special segment onto here for the show because there is something that I'm really passionate about that I want to discuss. So, with that in mind, This week, or at least last Sunday, was the 23rd anniversary of the pay-per-view known as Armageddon 2000. And of course, Armageddon was like an old school pay-per-view that WWE slash WWF used to have back in the day, because they had that. They had Judgment Day. They had Vengeance, which is now, of course, Vengeance Day in the realm of NXT and stuff like that. And Armageddon was one of those, smaller pay-per-views that wouldn't be on the level of a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble or even a Money in the Bank or a Survivor Series or a SummerSlam, right? But of course, it was mainly consistent a lot of the time around this time this year. And I wanted to discuss this because every time they talk about it or every time they bring it up, it has a double meaning for me in terms of what it actually means. And so Armageddon 2000 happened on December the 10th of 2000, and basically this event happened at the BJCC in Birmingham, Alabama, which is of course where I'm from, and this is where I was born and raised. And the funny part about this pay-per-view happening is the fact that it is the only pay-per-view slash premium live event that has ever taken place in the city of Birmingham, and none has happened since then. But a lot of historic moments happen here. As you can see, they had the famous Hell in a Cell match that had The Undertaker, Rikishi, Kurt Angle, The Rock, and Triple H. And I believe Stone Cold Steve Austin was in it as well. Um, and this was also where, as you can see, Rikishi got thrown off of the cage onto a truck full of hay, I think this is. Or it might be dirt, I'm not entirely sure. But this is where he was thrown off of the cage and they all fought each other. And then in another funny turn of events, my parents were both there. I believe it was a date night for them. And they went to this event, to have fun and everything. And just to paint the picture, I've talked about on the show before how my father is a huge wrestling fan, which is how I got into it, and my sister got into it as well. But my mom sort of dips in and out with it because of the fact that her and dad have been together so long. She's watched it with him before, but not really like grasped fully into it for real. But she always listens to me whenever I talk about something in wrestling, especially since I started my podcast and everything, because she loves me. And she's just like, okay, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? She's interested in it by proxy of me. And and so she went to this event, and I was like maybe 6 or 7 at the time. And she was rooting for Triple H's face to get rubbed against the cage, and that's exactly what happened. And she was yelling for his face to get rubbed against the cage. And, she was calling him an eraser face or something like that. But it was just really funny to hear those stories from someone getting into wrestling who isn't exactly into wrestling at the same time. And it's funny now because she'll watch certain clips of certain things, and even now she loves Bianca Belair. But then again, what person I feel like what person doesn't at this point? So yeah, like my mom and dad went to this pay-per-view, went to Armageddon 2000 as a date night thing. And I guess they really enjoyed themselves. But weirdly enough, since then, like I mentioned earlier, WWE has not had another premium live event or pay-per-view in Birmingham since then. From what I heard, this event actually sold out, but since then they really haven't had one. And I don't know exactly, what the reasons are. Hey, Jeffrey, what the reasons are behind them never having one again. But it's just really interesting how that happened. And I am very passionate about my city and where I'm from. And I have that big Bama energy. And because I have that big Bama energy, I want to discuss why I feel my city, my hometown, deserves a pay-per-view after all this time. I know that Birmingham isn't exactly like the biggest city in comparison to cities that are like really huge markets like New York or Chicago or Atlanta or even San Francisco or even Los Angeles. We are a big city, but at the same time, we have that southern feel because, of course, we are, in the middle of Alabama, and that is one of the, staple southern states. And it's just our city. has cool things that have happened to it and have had amazing concerts and amazing events that have happened to it. But sometimes it would be like spaces in between where a lot of stuff would or would not happen. And then, of course, there would be times where we would have stuff that would generate a lot of, popularity that would disappear. Like, say, for instance, a long time ago, we had a thing called city stages, and that's where a lot of different music artists would come into the city and perform and stuff like that. And that wound up not happening after a couple of years. I think around 2005 was probably the last year it happened. And then after that, they just didn't have it anymore. And then we also used to have the Southern Heritage Festival where the likes of where acts such as Rick James and so many other artists would come to town and stuff like that. And I know that's pretty old school for certain people, but at the same time, these are stories that I've heard from my parents when they gone to experience stuff like this. So, you know, Birmingham has had its fair share of cool people to roll through. We've even had Tina Turner. We even had Prince. Like, we even had Destiny's Child at one point, of course, before Beyonce was at Beyonce level powers now. So it's off and on for us. But I feel that the city of Birmingham has truly grown to a point to where we can still attract, amazing things for ourselves. Because of course, since Armageddon 2000 was in the Legacy Arena / BJCC, since then we've undergone like all kinds of renovations and stuff. As you can see, it doesn't even really look that much of the same on the front. On the bottom right hand corner, you can see the picture. That's where the tunnel used to be, where a lot of the WWE superstars used to drive through, and we used to watch them leave or get autographs from them, at the end of the show. But that tunnel doesn't even exist anymore. Like, they got rid of it and just basically revamped the whole thing from the inside. It doesn't even look the same. It's crazy. But now that has allowed us to have so many new things. Like, we even have an not an NWA, Lord, I'm tripping. The NBA has a G League team. We have the Birmingham Squadron, which feeds into the New Orleans Pelicans. And that is something that does generate a lot of buzz here in the city. And since then, we've had lots of growth, even since I moved back down here after I graduated from college in 2016. There's a lot of growth that we've had. And Jeffrey in the comments is saying Alabama is underrated city for pay-per-views. Yeah, Birmingham, has only had one, but our events and the WWE and the wrestling events that we do have down here is really good, and it does generate buzz. And he says, I don't remember WWE been to Alabama for a pay-per-view. No, it hasn't, outside of Armageddon 2000. We'll get Raws and we'll get SmackDowns a lot of the time. SmackDown is the Raw show is the show that comes to Birmingham the absolute most. But we don't get pay-per-views. So basically, this is the point of me talking about it. So something that did happen last year was the fact that in the growth of our city, we were able to obtain the World Games, which was sort of like the Olympics, but kind of not like the Olympics. It was huge. Like, the city, in the downtown area was really like packed out with so many people from all around the world to participate in the World Games. And it was just really insane, like, to go to Starbucks and then you see a whole team of people looking like they're either playing soccer or any other sport, getting in line to get Starbucks for themselves or at the local grocery store. And they're all either walking together or like trying to figure out, how stuff works and everything. And it generated a lot of crazy buzz. Like, when I went to Publix and tried to buy something during that time, like, it was sold out due to the amount of people that were just looking for things and the amount of people that was just buying stuff. And it really generated lots of cool stuff. Like, we even had concerts with the likes of Big Boy, who came to town. Lupe Fiasco came to town, and I went to that show, and that was amazing because he's one of my favorite rappers. And then, of course, we had a coronation concert, to start off everything at the Protective Life Stadium. And it was just an amazing deal. And then I believe my former church, Rock City, actually performed there with Pastor Mike Jr. as well. So it was just a huge deal. And I feel like because we are now generating events like this, I feel like this right here, the World Games, is one of the biggest reasons as to why I feel that WWE could have a pay-per-view here, because not only will it generate people from the city to come to it, it would also generate people from at least all over the country to come to the pay-per-view as well. Like people, especially in Mississippi or in places like in different cities in the South who have probably never even been to a pay-per-view at all, or people who, would just like to go to one that's closer to them, they could go, and it would be right in our city. And that would just be really cool, for us. But yeah, the World Games was an amazing experience to see. A lot of the sporting events sold out. They had bowling. They even had sumo wrestling, which sold out real fast. And that upset me because I really did want to go. They even had cheerleading and they had swimming and so many other different sports going on. So the World Games was definitely an experience. Now, it might have been crazy due to parking and certain stuff like that because I worked in downtown during that time. But either way, it was still really cool to experience, all the different people from all over the world coming to your city. Like that was just a huge deal. And I feel like that's one reason why we, should be in the running to have a WWE PLE at some point. And this is, of course, Protective Stadium. Now, this is where our two-time USFL champions, the Birmingham Stallions, play when they're playing at home. And this stadium is state of the art. It's really beautiful. And right behind it is Top Golf. So, the first time I went into Protective Stadium, it was for a USFL game with the Birmingham Stallions. And we went in this really nice sort of box or whatever, and it was really pretty, but it was really crowded and stuff. But either way, like this is also where I believe our soccer team plays, which is Birmingham Legion. So it's like really cool events that take place there, and UAB even plays there as well. That's the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Their football team, the Blazers, plays there from time to time, I think. So that is also an amazing facility that we do have. Now, mind you, I don't think it may be big enough for an event or something, but at the same time, it's also outside. So that's not really that controlled of an environment, because if it rains, you're kind of just messed up in that way. But either way, that's another place that we have. And of course, we also have concerts there too, because Garth Brooks performed a huge concert there, and it had everybody coming out to see him. So it was pretty insane. And yeah, we have our soccer team, Birmingham Legion. They made it, I believe, to the semifinals of the tournament this year. So that was cool. And of course, we have our USFL champions, the Birmingham Stallions. Like, I was so excited to see them, succeed in the way that they have succeeded. And when you see WWE, having these partnerships with different, college football teams and stuff like that, and to see them also have a partnership with the USFL was really cool too. Although it was kind of interesting how they chose, for Big E to go to like Michigan's team. Now, mind you, I do understand why they went to Michigan, because SummerSlam was in Michigan was this year. I totally get why they were doing that promotion in terms of that. But he kept giving them WWE title belts. And I was just like, WWE, the thing that you guys normally do is give WWE championships to championship teams. Why haven't you given, WWE titles to the Birmingham Stallions? We've won the USFL championships twice now. How come you haven't given them championship belts? You owe us two. Now, if we go back and win next year, you gonna owe us three. You gonna owe us three if you don't come on down here and give us our things, okay? So that's another partnership that I feel like they would be able to benefit from, if it came to that. But I'm really proud of our USFL team. No, it's not the NFL and it's not the XFL just yet, because they are doing a combination thing with them in the future. But the USFL has brought lots of pride to us, and we're really proud of them. We love football down here. So the idea that we have a championship team, is just an amazing thing. And I really feel that WWE would definitely benefit from more of a connection with the championship teams. That would be amazing. So another deep, 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 deep reason why I feel that WWE should have another PLE down here is because of the history that wrestling has in Birmingham. And I'm going to tell a story Something that fascinated me was one of the last times NXT Live came here to Birmingham. I was with my boyfriend and his mom, and there was something that Cassius Ono, who is now known as Chris Hero, said. He mentioned the fact that Birmingham is an amazing wrestling city in terms of its history. And I didn't know this because, of course, I'm still young. So I'm just like, okay, well, what exactly do you mean? I was happy that he said that, and I thought that was really interesting that he said that, but it made me, it awakened a passion inside of me to know more about what Birmingham as a city had to offer the wrestling landscape. And so I looked and found so many things, and then I asked my dad, about so many things too. And in my research, I was able to find, of course, that Sensational Sherry in this picture, Sherry Marteau, was born in Birmingham just like me. And I know that I've mentioned this a billion times, but um the like her being from Birmingham just really set my heart ablaze, because I'm just like, yo, like, you're from here, like, you're born in the same city as me, like, what do you mean? Like, someone that cool, who was a manager to the stars, a gifted wrestler in her own right, was born in the same city as me. Like, what? Like, I was just so enthralled to figure that out. And I believe there was a story once that my mom told where she actually met her at a gas station here in Birmingham, because she was married to a guy who owned the said gas station. I don't know exactly where it was in the city, but she met her and said that she was just so sweet and so nice to her, and she recognized her, from watching Wrestling with Dad. And they were just, and they had just hit it off in that one little conversation. And the fact that her birthday is February the 8th, which is also the anniversary of the Hardy Wrestling podcast. It it's just an amazing thing. I did not plan for that to happen. Like, I just started it on a random Saturday. I started the podcast on a random Saturday in February in 2020, and it just so happened to be Sensational Sherry's birthday. Like, it's insane. But just finding out, that she's a part of that history of wrestling in Birmingham just made me feel really good. And it makes me feel like I have a place in this wrestling space because of her, and she's somebody that I wish I could have met. Like, I wish I could have talked to, because I feel like she and I would have a lot to get into as two Bama girls, but I know that she is in a far better place than this. So it's okay. But yeah, she, like, finding out she was from Birmingham, of course, just blessed me a whole lot. Then on top of that, you have Teddy Long, who is a friend of the pod as well. He's been on the Hardy Wrestling podcast. He was the first interview I ever did on video for the podcast. And how that happened was the fact that he saw me posting about stuff, my wrestling stuff, and being from Birmingham on my Instagram. And he would, do little comments and say, oh, it's good that you're doing this, or it's good that you're doing that. And I'm just like, is this really him? And I looked it up, and it really was him on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is so cool, And so I was really nervous to ask him this because my podcast was still audio at the time. So I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I really want to ask him to be on my show. And I did. And he said yes. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I had to figure out how to work Zoom in terms of doing video interviews, and we made it work. And he was so happy to be a part of it. I was happy to be a part of it, to ask him, what, like, how he got into wrestling, like, what was his life here in Birmingham even like. And I really feel that that was the common denominator. He Even though he has done interviews on podcasts before, he was definitely receptive to doing mine because he saw that we were from the same place. And that really blessed me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And I just asked him so many questions, because this man has been in wrestling basically his whole life. Like, he was a referee, he was a manager, he was a general manager. Like, this man has done it all. And even before his wrestling career, he was like a radio host, in Alabama as well. And it's just like so insane to think about how his voice was over the airwaves and stuff before he was ever on television as a manager. And of course, he crafted all of our childhoods. Of course, if you're between the ages of 20 and 30 or whatever, you remember watching this man, talk trash to people and, going and making people go one-on-one with The Undertaker and, creating tag team matches on SmackDown and on Raw and stuff like that. You were there when he got married to Crystal and had Jagged Edge singing at his wedding because that was peak UPN. Like, you were there for that. So it's just like the idea that this man, took time out of his day and his life to be on my show really blessed me too. And if you ever want to, go back and look at it, it's available on my YouTube channel. Please go back and look at it. It was such a good interview to have, and you can definitely tell it was before I was able to figure out StreamYard and all this other stuff. Because I was just figuring it out. But either way, knowing that he and I are from the same place, like, that blesses me too, and it inspires me as well. So the history of Birmingham and wrestling is a very beautiful thing. And there's also other people from Alabama who are, famous in wrestling too, which is why, I be telling people buy my Alabama wrestling t-shirt on foryourwear.com because there's history there. So if you have a mind to buy that t-shirt, by the way, or buy the hoodie because of course it's cold. But yeah, like Sensational Sherry and Teddy Long are on that hoodie because, they're from Birmingham like me. So it's cool. And no, Jeffrey, he did not tell me to go one-on-one with the Undertaker. But I get it. Another part of the history of Birmingham in wrestling is Continental Championship Wrestling. Now, the first time I heard about them, it was in the biography episode of where they were talking about Shawn Michaels. This is one of the recent ones. And Shawn Michaels was talking about how he was kind of on the struggle bus, in the first run of his career. Before him and the Midnight Rockers broke up, they were still together, but he was sort of on the struggle bus. So they sent him down to Birmingham down here to sort of get himself together, and to tighten his screws a little bit. And that was the first time I'd ever heard about them. So I went back and did my research and found out that this promotion mainly worked out of Tennessee, but then they would also have different shows in Birmingham, like on Monday nights, and then in Dothan on different Friday nights, or like they would just go all around the South and just have all kinds of different shows. And of course, they had it at the Boutwell Auditorium, which is, a historic auditorium in downtown. And they would have so many people come and wrestle, at this promotion. And they would have the likes of Hector Guerrero wrestle, the Honky Tonk Man, Arn Anderson, Moondog, Rex, probably a lot of people that some of us have or have not heard of, but either way, you've heard of them if you're a wrestling fan. Paul Orndorff, of course, Brickhouse Brown, Mr. Fuji, all of the Armstrong brothers, the Midnight Rockers, like I mentioned, Gordon Soley, and even Jim Cornette and Paul Heyman came through here. And it's just really insane to think about all of these people who are relevant to wrestling, even now and even in the past, had came through and wrestled here and cut their teeth here in this city. And it's just like, yo, like, this is so insane. How come, you know, that's not really critically lauded or talked about, on the same level as other places. Now, because of course, with all the popularity of the movie that's coming out called The Iron Claw, which is of course talking about the Von Erich family, they came from Texas. About what area in Texas that they're from and what they did for wrestling, in terms of areas like that. When it comes to Birmingham, we deserve a little bit more credit, and more respect on our name when it comes to, the history of us, in wrestling. Then on top of that, you also had NWA and how they had a little promotion called NWA Wrestle Birmingham. And I'm not sure, I don't think it exists anymore, but that one was relatively new, and that one happened sort of like towards the 2000s, I believe. But of course, I didn't know about it because number one, I was a child, and number two, there wasn't a lot of indie stuff I really knew about. So either way, there's a lot of history that has come up and down and through the city of Birmingham in terms of wrestling. And I feel like that deserves a whole lot of more respect. And that definitely feeds into one of my reasons as to why I feel like we deserve a PLE, because I mean, hello, we're sort of the backbone for wrestling in terms of a city, and it's great. And I'm really proud of that. And then, of course, now we have our own, we have a promotion that also still comes to Birmingham now. It's called Retinal Wrestling. I haven't had the pleasure of going to one of their shows, but they do, keep a consistent, schedule in terms of wrestling here in Birmingham and also in other places. And I think that's really amazing, that wrestling is sort of having its moment back in Birmingham again. But then, of course, you have the entire state of Alabama having various promotions in different areas. Like, people really don't, I feel like people really have to take into account, like, Alabama is a big state. Alabama is a really big state. And of course, if you're just in the Birmingham area, you're just in like one part of this really huge state that's got a whole lot of other stuff going on in it. But Retinal Wrestling is definitely a good part of it. And I'm glad that they're still getting their groove on with their wrestling as well, in terms of indie wrestling in the present here in the city. And then, of course, you have one of the biggest reasons why I feel that Birmingham deserves a pay-per-view. And it's the fact that every time a wrestler somehow or another gets injured or broken, they send them here. They send them here, and they send them to the Andrews Sports Medicine Clinic, which is located, well, one of them is located and stationed in St. Vincent's Hospital, which is the hospital where me and my sister were both born. And every time somebody gets injured somehow, they send them here to this clinic. And of course, they continue their rehab wherever else, whether it be at home or wherever else. But once they get injured, they send them here because we have the best surgeons and all of the above, and we help them get better. Like, for instance, when Triple H tore his quadricep in 2001 and he was out for months at a time, he had Dr. James Andrews do surgery on it, and he was able to rehab it and then come back in 2002. You do not have that epic moment of him coming back in 2002 at Madison Square Garden without Dr. James Andrews. You just don't. And then, of course, you also have Cody Rhodes and how he famously tore his pec when he was working out and prepping for his Hell in a Cell match with Seth freaking Rollins last year. Like, he tore his pec and he wrestled that whole match with it, and then he had to take time off. Where did they send Cody Rhodes? Down here to get surgery on that pec. And that wasn't Dr. James Andrews, but I believe that was Dr. Dugas, and he did surgery on him in the clinic. And the idea that they were showing Cody Rhodes during his comeback era after that injury, they showed footage of the inside of St. Vincent's Hospital. That made me feel super happy. I was so pumped because I'm just like, bruh, that's my hospital. That's where I was born. That's where Cody Rhodes is at. And it was just really cool. And then they even showed the footage on the last episode of Raw that they had here, which was, I believe, in February. No, it was January. And in January, they showed that footage. It was in Birmingham, and there was a huge pop. We were like, yeah, that's us, because we fixed them. Like, we fixed the wrestlers. And you don't have Cody Rhodes coming back to win the Royal Rumble to try to finish his story at this year's WrestleMania without us fixing them. So, because we be fixing the wrestlers, Birmingham, we fix the wrestlers. I feel like that relationship could be better, also be better facilitated to have a PLE here in Birmingham, because really we're the backbone of a lot of wrestlers' comebacks. Like, we are, sort of the hidden figures as to how, but not really hidden figures anymore, as, to how these people are able to come back. Because even Rey Mysterio, recently had his surgery at the clinic too. So it's just like, yo, like, if, like, with all of this knowledge running around in the back of my mind, I'm just like, so with all of this going on, with the history that Birmingham has with wrestling, with us fixing the wrestlers, and with the amount of growth that we've had with a lot of concerts that we were able to have. Next year we're having Drake come to Birmingham. That's a huge deal. With all of the growth that we're having as a city, how come we are not in contention for a PLE? Now, I'm not asking for us to have, of course, a WrestleMania. I'm not asking for that, because I know that there's a lot of growing that we would have to do in order to get something like that. I know that. Um, I'm not asking for us to have, a Royal Rumble or anything like that. But what I am asking for is maybe for us to have like a fast lane, or maybe a Payback or something like that. Because even because even like you've had cities like Pittsburgh and you've had cities like Indianapolis, sort of benefit from all of the growth of wrestling in that sense in this year, of course, when they weren't anywhere else. So with pay-per-views like that would just be really awesome. And then for all we know, we could even have an NXT pay-per-view, y'all. Give us an NXT pay-per-view, because as quiet as it's kept, them NXT pay-per-views be hitting real hard. And the NXT fam is gonna give us a great show, because of course, even though they are the newer people, they gonna still give us amazing shows. So the NXT faithful, I'm more than sure, would love to come to a city like Birmingham to experience, NXT. And NXT, they've had 2 live shows to come here, and the shows have been off the chain. Even though that was a different class of wrestlers both times, it was still insane to witness, where these people were, and then to see where they are now. Like, it's crazy. So if we even had an NXT pay-per-view, I would be grateful for just that. Like, give us that, give us a Payback, give us a Fast Lane. I mean, my crazy butt would hey, even give us a Money in the Bank. Why not? Give us a Money in the Bank. Like, that would be cool too. Just give us something amazing, because Birmingham as a city deserves it. We deserve it with everything that we have given, and allowed to happen, in the past and even in the future when it comes to wrestling. Like, we deserve a PLE, and I just don't want it. I just don't want to wake up and it's another 23 years and we don't have another pay-per-view. I feel like that would just be kind of unfair. Like, that would literally suck. Um, I understand that sometimes it can be a little bit of a struggle, but at the same time, we deserve it. We deserve it. Like, our city, if we don't have anything, we have hospitality, we have good food, we have good energy a lot of the time. So if there was a pay-per-view or a PLE that came to Birmingham, we would treat the wrestlers good, give them whatever it is that they need, make sure that they're doing okay and all of the things. Cause I mean, even though I low-key hate to even bring this up, like, even when Big E got injured, like when he got injured in that match, that was here on that episode of SmackDown, because me and my boyfriend experienced it firsthand. And, the team at UAB Hospital took care of him in that way too. So there's just so much that we offer that I feel would put us in line for a PLE at some point. And like I said, I'm not asking for a WrestleMania. I'm not asking for a Royal Rumble, but I'm just asking for just something. I mean, hey, if you guys want to bring back Evolution, do an Evolution 2, you can have that in Birmingham as well. It would just be amazing if that happened, because we've had a lot of growth over these past few years. Shout out to Mayor Woodfin, because he really has been popping off with the growth that we do deserve to have as a city, and how we deserve to compete for things just like other cities do. And I just feel really happy with how we've grown, as a city. So because we've grown so much, I really feel that we deserve a pay-per-view. It shouldn't be another 15 or 20 years and then y'all decide to have a pay-per-view. Like, do it at least within the next 3 to 5 years. I'm challenging you guys, WWE. Do it within the next 3 to 5 years, maybe. If y'all don't do it next year, because I know y'all going all over the world next year, and I love that, but next 3 to 5 years, give us a pay-per-view. Give Birmingham, Alabama a pay-per-view. We are the Magic City. We have Big Bama energy. It's 205 lit all day. So give us a lit PLE. Okay? So that ends this segment on why I believe the city of Birmingham deserves a PLE from WWE. And yeah, Jeffrey, yeah, give me what I want, period. Okay? Because that's what I want. So yeah, 3 to 5 years, WWE, make it happen. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go to what I liked in wrestling this week. And of course, there was a lot that took place this week in wrestling. And I just have to, well, hold on. Before I even go to that, I just have to show you guys this picture of my city. This is Birmingham. This is a skyline that I usually get to see every now and again, but also, I used to be able to see it like every day. But this is my city when the sun is going down, and I love it. This is Birmingham. That's my home, y'all. It made me, it raised me. This is it. And I love it so much. So, now moving into what I loved in wrestling this week. This past, not this past weekend, but last weekend, wow, Women of Wrestling Superheroes had a championship challenge match where, of course, Princess Aussie was the champion, and she was just trying to like up the ante with a lot of the people that she was giving opportunities to. And so her and David McClain came up with the championship challenge concept, and they had a wild card thrown in there because it was sort of like a 5-way match. But it was also like a not really a gauntlet match, but kind of just like it wasn't like your regular fatal 5-way. And the wild card was Abilene Maverick, who hadn't really wrestled in like about 5 years, I think they said on the last episode. And she came in and capitalized on the work of everybody else to become the new Wild World Champion. And this had the girls upset. And if you watch Steph and Cat talk wow, Katrina was really not having it. I wasn't necessarily having it. We didn't like this at all. Because Princess Aussie had been champion for like maybe a good 3 months or so. And then before that, you had Penelope Pink, who was champion for almost a whole year. And the math just wasn't mathing for us. So the idea that Princess Aussie lost it to, old girl who hadn't been in WoW in forever was just like, God dang. Like it was just really sad. But of course, me and Katrina are gonna get into the more recent episode of women of WoW superheroes this coming Wednesday. But child, this was a whole lot. And it was just insane to think about. But we gonna get into it Wednesday. Also, another great match that took place on WoW Superheroes, I believe 2 weeks ago, was Gloria Glitter versus Chantilly Cella. I absolutely recommend that you go on YouTube, find this match, and watch it because this is definitely one of the matches that I feel is what women's wrestling is all about. Like these women had speed, agility, and all of the amazing things that they offer to each other like in this match, and it was just really good. Like I think one day I'm actually gonna have to sit down and create a list of my favorite matches in WoW period because though the characters are a bit different than what you're used to in wrestling, the the quality of the action that you get is still on 10. Like you're still gonna get you a great women's wrestling like show period out of all of these athletes. So that's why I always recommend that you watch it because they be wrestling all the way down on this 1 hour all female show. So I definitely recommend that you go back and watch this match. Gloria Glitter is somebody I have my eye on who could very well, be a future Wild World Champion. Um, like she's amazing, and Chantilly Cella is an OG when it comes to WoW. And I've been lucky to have called action for her at the Belladonna division under her other persona. So like watch it. Like please go and watch this match. Like if you love women's wrestling, watch this match. It was really good. And so just continue to support them and support Steph and Cat Talk WoW as we continue to, go on our WoW journey and just express our love for this show. Another thing that I liked in wrestling this week was the women's Iron Survivor match at NXT Deadline. This match was fantastic. My favorites in this match was Tiffany Stratton, even though she gets on my nerves on a very stereotypical, I'm better than you type of thing. And Kalani Jordan. Those two are my absolute favorites in this match because Miss Tiffany hit that prettiest moonsault ever off of the Iron Survivor box, and I was just like, so are you related to the Hardy Boys, ma'am? Because the way you just be jumping off of stuff is just insane. And I just can't wait to see her versus Charlotte Flair. because it's going to be a battle of the moonsaults. And I just really like, they're going to eat down and I'm going to love it. But Kalani Jordan was amazing in that match as well. Like, oh my God, like she is low key on the levels of Ricochet when it comes to her high flying stuff. Because of course she was a gymnast, if you may or may not have known that. So it's just like every time she performs, she just impresses me each and every time. And I just can't wait for her to fully have like her big moment where she gets a big opportunity like for an NXT women's title or something, because she is so good. Like Kalani is amazing. Like she is her, and I do mean that with all puns intended. She's just really great, and she's growing in such a great way, and I'm just so happy for her. The only thing I hated about that match was the fact that she did not get any points. Yeah, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, you wrote the comment just as soon as I was about to say it. I hated that Kalani didn't get any points. I hated it. I was just like, come on now, let her get some points. Let my girl get some points. But she didn't. But even though she didn't win any physical points with the match, she won points with us, and that's all that matters. So Miss Ma'am did the doggone thing, and I love it. I love it. And definitely Tiffany and Charlotte needs to happen. They really do. She's amazing. Um Another thing that I loved in wrestling this week was just the fact that Cory Jade um was just ever since CM Punk came back, she has just been expressing her inner fandom when it comes to CM Punk, and just how happy she is that, you know, she's now a wrestler and she actually gets to, you know, experience him again, because she really was a huge CM Punk fan. So she posted these pictures, you know, from when she was a little girl, you know, meeting him, and she had braces and everything. She looks so cute, but really her face hasn't changed all that much. Um, but she really did love him, and then she even showed the video of her meeting him and crying, and him telling her not to cry because he hates it when women cries. And I'm just like, oh my God, why are you so sweet? But fast forward, and now she's a wrestler in NXT, you know, a former women's NXT tag team champion. And now she gets to meet him, who's made his big comeback after almost 10 years away. And it's just amazing to see stuff like that. It's just so, it's heartwarming. It's really heartwarming when you see people make their journeys in this way. Because, of course, for all we could have known, you know, Cora could have just been, you know, a fan and probably would have done something ordinary with her life. And that would have been fine. But she decided to become a wrestler, and she worked hard, and now here she is, you know, in NXT trying to raise hell because she's back now. And then boom, here comes CM Punk, you know, congratulating her and saying that, you know, that he's happy for her, and even saying that AJ Mendez, his wife, was happy for her. You know what, Jeffrey, are you about to just read my mind? Jeffrey keeps saying things that I'm getting ready to say. But yeah, it's just like, it's just such a beautiful thing when stuff like this happens. And you can definitely tell that everybody has just been enjoying CM Punk being back in WWE. You know, not just me, but everybody. Well, not everybody, but, you know, a lot of the younger people are really enjoying that. And seeing stuff like this just brings a smile to my face. It's just so warm and fuzzy and beautiful. And I love that Cora Jade had this moment, even though she be getting on my nerves from a heel face perspective. She deserves this moment. She definitely deserves it. Um, Another thing that I loved from the NXT Deadline sort of things was Trick Williams having his moment in the sun and becoming the Iron Survivor. And he was one of the people that I was really, really rooting for in this match, because I just love Trick Williams, and I've loved him even before he fully started wrestling. And it's just the idea that this man has grown so much, and then his personality that was already there has become bigger, and now he's this guy who's qualifying for things and even winning titles. It's just an amazing thing, and you can definitely tell like he's having the time of his life. And every time he wins something like that, even though he talks and has this big game with all this confidence and all that, you can tell it means the world to him, because like you can really be tell he be trying to fight back tears, and I just be like, oh my God, Trick, oh my God. I love him like so much because he's just so authentic. Like I've talked about multiple times how authentic I feel him and Carmelo are, you know, when it comes to, seeing how black men, just their expression of how black men are, in the present day. And just seeing that on WWE television has just been a blessing, and watching him grow has been a blessing in that aspect. And just now he's the Iron Survivor, which of course means that he gets to challenge for the NXT title that's currently being held by Ilya Dragunov at New Year's Evil. But then at the same time, he did kind of have that injury, and I'm low-key wondering what does that mean. But either way, Trick Williams has that opportunity, and I'm just so happy for him because he just deserves it. And he's just, he's been trying to strike out on his own and sort of move out of the mellow shadow, and he's been doing a fantastic job of that. So the fact that he was able to win, in the way that he won, was just insane, because at first it wasn't looking like he was gonna win at all, and I was gonna be sad, and I was gonna be like, oh my god, Trick, no, you didn't win. But when he started bouncing back, and when he got up from that Braun Breaker spear, which I didn't think he was going to get up from, and he started kicking and started covering people with the scores, I was like, Jesus, let's go. I was so happy for him. Jeffrey saying Matt Bloom and Orny Lorcan produced that match. Oh, okay. Cool. I didn't know Orny Lorcan was still with them. Okay, well, he's producing. That's great. Malik, thank you for joining on Twitter. I see there have been a few people joining in on Twitter, and I do want to highlight you and thank you, for joining the show. If I can find it. I love Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins joined. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying the show. So I love that. But then the thing that they did, the little bit of nugget of storytelling that they had as Trick Williams was celebrating, was the fact that Carmelo came out there right behind him, and I was like, oh Jesus. See, I was watching this pay-per-view because I thought for sure, maybe, just maybe, Carmelo would probably turn on him or something like that, even there. But it didn't happen. But I do, even though for some people it can be kind of like frustrating to watch a story have like a slow cook. um I low-key like it, but then another part of me is just like, come on, come on, come on, come on. But I'm still enjoying it either way. And this was masterful. The fact that you have Carmelo, who had to fight Lexus King and teach him a lesson, after, like, during the show. And then Lexus King was like, I didn't attack Trick, but thank you for that spot in the PLE anyway. I was just like, oh, so what does that mean? But I'm gonna get more to that when I go into NXT Tuesday. But yeah, another thing that I loved in wrestling this week was the interaction between Becky Lynch and Nia Jax. Now, of course, we all know the history of what happened between Nia Jax and Becky Lynch. Nia, of course, broke Becky's nose, and she's just been taking credit for turning Becky Lynch into a star ever since that moment. And Becky doesn't like that. She was just like, look, I really need for you to stop saying that you made me, because you did it. And you were just the person who just so happened to break my face. And I decided to keep fighting and keep being who I am. And of course, I went on to main event WrestleMania that year, whereas you got fired. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. And then Becky said the craziest line to her by saying that people don't like to say that even your knees, you had to get triple fusion knee surgery because even your knees, gave out on holding your terrible personality. And I was like, damn, that was just really harsh, Becky. And those are the reasons why I can't wait to read her book, because I just feel like it's going to be an entertaining read for sure. But Becky really can roast people when she's given the opportunity. And I just love that. And Nia just felt like she just kept, holding on to the idea that she made Becky Lynch. And I'm just like, no, not really. Because thinking back to that time, Becky was already rising on her own, because she was, fighting to get to the SmackDown Women's title, only to get, pushed off by Charlotte Flair, who won the title, but they were still friends. And then Becky turned on her, and that is really what made her the star. Is the fact that she had had enough and she snapped off and was like, look, I'm sick of this. This opportunity was supposed to be mine. I'm tired of being, poo-pooed off for the bigger people. Like, I'm sick of that. And that's how she became the man. So quite honestly, Becky Lynch became the man organically. And I feel like Nia Jax punching her in the nose and breaking her face only added more to the stardom that was already there. So I feel like it's almost delusional for Nia Jax to say, "Oh, well, I made you." No, you didn't. You breaking her face just so happened to be a happy accident that just made her star be pushed further. So that's just kind of how I feel about it from a logical sense. But this feud is really cool, and I like, how they're doing it. Jeffrey is saying Nia says you need this more than me. She did say that. And I feel like Becky doesn't need it. She doesn't need the victory over Nia Jax like that. Because if you really sit and think about the year that Becky Lynch had, like, this woman was women's tag team champions with Lita. She fought at WrestleMania. She won the NXT women's title, which is a title that she never won. I mean, she doesn't need this. Becky doesn't actually need this. Here again, this is where I feel Nia is being delusional. Um, if anything, Nia needs to be Becky because Nia just came back this year and she, is still building up her momentum after being gone for so long. So if anything, I would argue that Nia needs to beat Becky more than Becky needs to beat Nia, because Becky, whether win or lose, she'll still be the man. Nia, if she doesn't beat Becky, then I don't know. But yeah, this was a very enjoyable interaction. I'm glad this happened. This was cool. Then I love this segment right here with the icy stare between Rhea Ripley, the women's world champion, and Ivy Nile. Now, of course, this was after Rhea Ripley fought Maxine Dupree. And I admire Maxine Dupree's courage, but the idea that she really was, trying to fight her, but Rhea Ripley is Rhea Ripley, it was just kind of like, okay, girl. It was sort of a foregone conclusion that Rhea was going to win this match. It was sad, but it's true. But then, of course, since Ivy and Maxine have this friendship going on, she was trying to stop Rhea from jumping her, and she got in her face, was like, "Look, you need to leave her alone." Like, Ivy now isn't scared of anybody. Like, this woman could probably lift Rhea Ripley and not care anything about it. So I can't wait to see these two finally fight each other. It's going to be amazing when they do, because not Nia, but Ivy, Miss Ma'am, she's a badass. And I can't wait to see more of that, because, of course, we have been seeing a lot of the Creed brothers, in their qualifications in the tag division. But I want to see Ivy now pop off and have her moment, because a lot of people don't know, like, this woman fought Mako Satomura in NXT UK. And that was not an easy match. So her versus Rhea is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see it. Another thing I loved in wrestling this week was the fact that Team KC Squared, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance are still rising up and beating the other tag teams so they can qualify for the women's tag team titles that are currently being held by Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. I need them to take those titles from them. Period. That's it. That's all. They beat Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, and I just need them to take those titles from Chelsea and Piper. That's all. Um, then another thing I loved in wrestling was the return of Yeet. The return of Yeet. Of course, if you follow wrestling journalism, or even if you don't, I'm gonna tell you the story. There was an independent wrestler who had somehow copyrighted Yeet to be used. And I believe he may have said something about it, once WWE started capitalizing off of Jey Uso saying the word Yeet a lot of the time. And they had to take it off TV for like maybe a week or so. It wasn't even that long. And then all of a sudden, you see that Yeet has returned and the merch is back. And I'm just like, yes, because I wanted a white Yeet shirt, and then I really don't mind the blue one in this picture either because it's cute. So I'm just like, I want this t-shirt. Like, I want all of Jey Uso's merch, to be quite honest. Jey Uso is just having a great moment right now, and I really would have loved it if he had beaten Seth Rollins for the world heavyweight title, because I feel like with the work that this man has done, he just deserves a whole lot more. I feel like he deserves a singles title run at some point. And the fact that Seth has this death grip on the title is just making me upset, because their match on Raw like 2 weeks ago was fantastic. And I really wanted Jay to win. But oh my God, the way things are in wrestling right now with so many personalities, it's just like, God dang it, man. Jay really could have been champion. He could have. He really could have. And he probably still can. But just with the way everything is now, oh God, it's so hard. It is so hard. But Jey Uso is having a moment, and I'm just so proud of him, because I remember when him and his brother debuted, and now look at them. Or more specifically, Jay, because Jimmy's on the struggle bus, but we ain't gonna get into that today. But yeah, Yeet is back, and I'm happy. And then we had this segment. Y'all, y'all. Ooh, Seth and CM Punk. This is one of the most iconic stare downs I've ever seen in my life. This stare down is low key on the levels of The Rock and Terry Bollea, and their stare down. It's on the level of Triple H and The Undertaker stare down. Like, I just can't even begin. I couldn't even begin to fathom this happening as soon as it did, but the fact that it did made me happy, because I did I did kind of see that maybe one day they would fight each other, but I thought maybe they would hold off until, maybe next year for them to have an encounter. They said, nope, if CM Punk is signing with Raw, we're going to do this right the F now. And that's exactly what they did. And of course, CM Punk had an amazing promo when he was talking about, going back to Raw and everything, because Raw took place in Cleveland. And he said he let us in on the history of his wrestling career, or the history of his WWE career as it started in Cleveland. He talked about how he came out on Raw with Mickie James on his arm, and wrestled in Cleveland before they sent him back to OVW to get himself, I guess, more situated. And he was mad about it, but, he let it go and he did what he was supposed to do and all of the above. Then also in Cleveland, this was where he was holding the world heavyweight title in its former iteration, and he got punted in the head by Randy Orton, and then they stripped him of the title. And he blamed it on Cleveland. Then on top of that, when he walked out of the company, guess where it happened? In Cleveland. So, even though he had talked about all of that happening and um in Cleveland, and all of the deals that people had presented to him from SmackDown with Nick Aldis and from Shawn Michaels with NXT, he knew that he was going to go back to Raw simply because this Raw was going to be in Cleveland, and Cleveland was the place where he was going to start all over again. And it was a beautiful promo. And you can definitely tell the thing that CM Punk does the greatest is, like, when he tells stories, he's being absolutely honest. And I feel like that's his greatest strength, is his honesty. So him telling that story was very enthralling. It was very real. It was chills inducing, because a lot of it I had actually either experienced or saw or watched again via his documentary. And it was just insane. So that was a great promo from him. Then you fast forward and you have Seth Rollins pop up in his purple suit. And he just stared at CM Punk and said, look, man, this is Monday Night Rollins. And you don't get to call this place home, because this is my home. The people in the back are my brothers and sisters. The people who watch this show are my brothers and sisters. And you don't get to call it home, because all you did was try to tear it down for close to 10 years. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, he is really like saying the quiet part out loud. And I love that. And he said, look, with every fiber of my being, I hate you. He was like, but he didn't say it the way I said. He was like, I hate you. And I was like, oh, you can feel it. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, he was like, I hate you. And just know that if you call yourself trying to challenge me, like, I will wrestle circles around you and prove that I am the best in the world. You know, if you're lucky to have an opportunity for this world title. And I was just like, Seth, I just could not believe he was cooking him up like that. But then CM Punk was hit him with the most savage line you could ever say in an argument. Are you done? And I was like, oh no. And it triggered something in me because I can't stand it when folks say, are you done? Like, oh my God, I hate it. I just feel like it's so rude. But I cannot wait to see these two fight each other because after that, CM Punk did announce that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble next year. So we finna have a time. Cody has declared for the Rumble. He's declared for the Rumble. We are going to have a time in January, y'all. This is going to be a fun ride on the road to WrestleMania. And I just cannot wait. Also, I wrote an article about them and their fight and how CM Punk just might beat Seth Rollins. Go on dailyddt.com and read my article that is entitled Seth Rollins' title reign may end with CM Punk. Read it. I have fun writing it. I'm just really happy that this is the time that we're living in. But just to go to the comments, Jeffrey is saying great promos from Seth and CM Punk. This is something TK couldn't do properly in AEW. When you can do business and be professional, good things can happen. Everyone can benefit from this in the end. Seth, when he's serious and not joking around, things can become special. Triple H cooking up something good in this feud. Yes, he is. He really is. And yeah, if it's anything Seth has shown is that he is able to be professional in the toughest of circumstances. Because especially with him and Matt Riddle, that situation could have been very volatile, but they still made a match out of it and it worked. So, hey, this is where we're at, and we are in a very iconic place, and I'm really excited about it. This was cool. And I love Seth Rollins' suit because it was purple. Yeah. And also, there is another question that I had in terms of CM Punk. And ever since he's been back in WWE, he's only taken a picture, I think, with one man, actually two men, and that was Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Every other time we've seen him, he's been taking pictures with women's wrestlers. He took his picture with Cory Jade. He actually took two pictures with Cory Jade and Roxanne Perez. He took a picture with Nikita Lyons. And even on Raw, he asked the Judgment Day where Rhea was. And then, of course, you know, during his promo, when he was talking about Cleveland, he was talking about how he came out with Mickie James. And Mickie James has also come out and called him, you know, that's her brother. So with all of that being said, and then with the fact that he was on AEW a few years ago, wearing a t-shirt that says get your own and then tell it what to do in terms of, you know, the female uterus, I wonder, is CM Punk a feminist icon? Go with me here, guys, because it's really giving feminist icon. And yes, if you're a man, you can be a feminist. And just the idea that he keeps putting over the women over and over again is just something that I've come to love about his character. Because even when he came back at AEW for the first dance, he said, you know, you guys really know how to make a man feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh. So with that being the case, CM Punk really might be a feminist icon. And I love that. And then on top of that, he's married to AJ Mendez, who is quite arguably one of the best women's wrestlers of all time. So CM Punk might really be a feminist icon. But I enjoy that because more men should be like him. I love that. And yeah, Jeffrey, you know, he did say that those are his and AJ's kids, Roxanne and Cora. The only person missing in those pictures was Jasmine Allure, who was on WoW as Jasmine. Well, not Jasmine, but Jennifer Flores. And she was just on Ring of Honor Final Battle this past weekend too. So the only person missing in those pictures is her. But yeah, I love that he shows the women love, and yeah, he really might be a feminist icon, and I love that. Then on top of that, I feel like this is the CM Punk section. I'm sorry, y'all. But I love this moment he had with Kofi Kingston. Okay. So for people, for people, yeah, she was on AEW. Yeah, she was. She was. I forgot about that too. Um, there's been so much going on, Jeffrey. Charge it to my head, not my heart. Um, CM Punk had this moment with Kofi Kingston, and that healed a spot in my childhood. I don't know what this did for me, but it healed something within. Because for those who may not know, CM Punk and Kofi Kingston were in a tag team. They were tag team champions together at one point, and this was when Kofi was still Jamaican, and when CM Punk had long hair and before his theme song was Cult of Personality. That's how long ago they were tag team champions, and then they were friends too because they posted pictures together where they've been at each other's houses. And even Kofi Kingston was in his documentary Best in the World from a long time ago too. And so it's just like, oh my God, the fact that they had this moment and they hugged each other. And then CM Punk called him Jamaican me crazy. And then Kofi was like, I don't do that anymore. I was just like, oh my God. It's so crazy when you really sit and think about the fact that Kofi had a whole other persona when they were like when he was there, and now Kofi has now grown to be one of the most iconic WWE champions of all time, and tag team champion of all time, a Grand Slam champion, you know, and he's a part of the New Day, and the New Day didn't even exist when CM Punk was there, and I was just like, oh my God, it just healed something in my spirit to see them do that, and then you have Adam Pearce looking like, hey, what's this? It was just really sweet. I loved it. And then you had CM Punk say hi to Chad Gable and Ricochet. That was just really nice. So there's just healing all around coming from this whole situation. And it's just amazing. So I loved it so much. Maybe CM Punk will have a moment with a New Day. This needs to happen. I'm manifesting it. But yeah, it was great. Then you have this that really intrigues me here. Like, R-Truth getting in the face of Damian Priest. R-Truth has been breaking into the Judgment Day clubhouse for the past few weeks, ever since he's made his return. And he looks like he's really been having fun with the whole thing. But at the same time, Damian Priest is getting really frustrated. He's angry about a lot of different things. He's angry at Rhea. He's angry at everybody else. But he attacked R-Truth and gave him a clothesline. And the thing that I need R-Truth to get serious, maybe still be himself, but get Buck on Damian Priest. Like, I need a feud between Damian Priest and R-Truth. And though I understand when you're fighting Damian, you're fighting the entirety of Judgment Day, I'm gonna need for R-Truth to get Buck on him and let him know, like, I am not to be played with. Now, I don't know, how well he is in terms of wrestling, in ring or whatever, but I'm gonna need for R-Truth to really like get Buck and go back, to where he used to be, and let Damian Priest know you ain't finna run all over me. That's what I need from R-Truth. I need a feud between Damian Priest and R-Truth, because Damian ain't doing nothing but yelling at Rhea. And yeah, he's holding like that briefcase or whatever, but he ain't cashing it in anytime soon. What else can he do? Be for R-Truth and actually have a feud with him. I really hope that R-Truth didn't just take that hit and then just don't do nothing else with it. Like, I want R-Truth to get Buck and get Buck at Damian Priest. That's what I need. I need that in my life. Now, moving into the NXT side of things in terms of Tuesday, I love that Nikita Lyons is back. Um, Nikita is a friend of the Hardy Wrestling podcast. I've met her. She's really sweet. She loves she loved the fact that before, of course, the transition to video started, I made a clip about how everybody was reacting to her beauty when she first made her NXT debut. And it was just really cool. So she and her mother both are friends of the pod, and I love that. But the thing that I loved about her coming back was the fact that she had on these two outfits on Tuesday that looked like clothes that I would low key wear. Like this purple ensemble really looks like a shirt that one of that my sister Tamika bought for me from the mall a couple years ago. Like it was flowy and it had like gold accents in it and everything. And I was just like, how does outfit look like my shirt that I had once upon a time? And then she had another outfit right here that looked very flowy and naturey and hippie-ish. And it looked like she shops at Earthbound Trading. Now, that's one of my favorite stores at the mall. I love Earthbound Trading because their clothes are really comfortable and they're stretchy. And the store just has sort of like a nice, spiritual hippie vibe to it. And it's just really cool. So looking at this outfit, like I have a pair of pants that's just like that I got a few years ago that were green and they had elephants on them. And I'm just like, do me and Nikita shop at the same store? Do we shop at the same store? That's what I want to know because this really looks like she's been in my closet. Now, mind you, I wouldn't mind, but at the same time, just looking at NXT and looking at the clothes that she was wearing, I was like, ma'am, you've been in my closet. But it's okay. If we shop at Earthbound, that's fine. But I did love that she came to Lyra Valkyria's defense, though. I'm happy she's back. So it's cool. Another thing I loved in NXT was the fact that Thea Hale tried to talk to Riley Osborne after his match in the men's breakout tournament. And she was kind of stumbling and fumbling to try to talk to him. And I feel like that's just so relatable. Like, for Thea to be this young, and you see somebody that you think is fine, and you nervous to talk to them because you know that you think that they're fine, and you want to go out with them, but then it's just like you just start fumbling and all this other stuff and saying stuff that don't make sense. And I just thought this was so cute. I'm like, Thea, you're all of us. You're literally all of us. But then again, the older I got, I learned in high school that you as women, like maybe we shouldn't be trying to like holler at the men and just let the men approach you. And that's really what I've been doing ever since. Like, I just let men approach me, or sometimes, we'll just have a conversation and just start talking about something that's really cool. And then eventually, if it leads somewhere, fine. But if it don't, that's fine too. But yeah, there are women in life that are really this bold enough, to walk up to a man and, start saying nice things to them and flirting and stuff like that. And I admire women who do that. I think that's cool. But just for me, I would just prefer if the man came up to me. But, this is why I've been in a relationship for so long, because I don't know how dating works anymore. So Jeffrey is saying, I thought Thea was supposed to be a bad girl. See, here's the thing, Jeffrey, about that. She joined up with JC Jane, but then somehow or another, her and Chase U somehow or another got back together, and then she put JC Jane in Chase U. But I feel like deep down inside, JC might have something to do with the debt thing. I really feel like she might be the reason why Chase U was going through so much financial turmoil. Because she's a bad girl. Like, she has always been a bad girl, even though she's sort of, guiding Thea Hale through and stuff like that. I feel like this might lead up to JC Jane being more of a villain than we think she is letting on to be at this point. So I don't know, but she is back to being herself, and I like Thea Hale as the sweet peppy girl, but I also love her maturing as well and growing into a woman. And she's going through those growing pains, but it's really relatable. And I like that this is happening on WWE TV, because for all we know, there might be a teenager that's watching WWE NXT and see Thea Hale and they feel seen, from being nervous about coming up to guys and talking to them, or coming up to girls and talking to them. So I feel like stuff like this is necessary for people. So I like it. And yeah, it's great. 6L of Banter Club, thank you. Ramblemania, thank you for joining the show from Twitter. Thank you so much. Um, yeah. Another thing that I loved about NXT was Oba Femi and his performance in the men's breakout tournament. He is from Nigeria, but he went to the University of Alabama, and he is a shot put champion. So yeah, this was really cool. I love that he is out here, doing it big. for the culture. I love that. So I hope he goes pretty far. And I hope that he somehow or another wins. He's one of my favorites to win the breakout tournament. But even if he doesn't, he's still in a good place regardless. So shout out to him and that Big Bama energy. Love that. Then we got this moment right here. Heavenly Father, Son of God. Look, y'all. Trick Williams was out here celebrating, okay? This is okay. Trick Williams. Look, I need to make the screen big. Trick Williams was out here celebrating his Iron Survivor win, and he cut probably one of the best promos I've ever heard him cut. Right next to his Mama Say, Mama Sa, Mama Kusa over Mommy. And then that one time he said that him and Melo go together like peanut butter and jelly, like Shaq and Kobe and like Trick Williams and big booty women. This was probably by far one of the best promos he has ever cut. When he said he was like 23 in LA, like he was Trick Jordan or Trick McGrady. He was like, never mind who you thought I was. I'm Trick James, bitch. Like, that was cool, okay? That was amazing. And that took me back to my childhood too. Rest in peace, Rick James. But yeah, like, he was out here celebrating, and then Ilya Dragunov came out there and he dapped him up and gave him his things. And mind you, watching Ilya Dragunov dap up Trick Williams twice in a row has just been insane for my brain to comprehend. Like, yo, like, how do you hold on, Ilya? What you been? Where you been at? Like, it's cool. But then you had Carmelo coming out to make everything about him. But then earlier in the night, he made me mad anyway because he was acting like he got attacked. And I say acting like because when he took whatever it was that he got hit with in the knee, he grabbed it and threw it off of him. He attacked himself. Number one. Number two, you come out here and you mess up your best friend's moment with Ilya Dragunov, knowing he's the Iron Survivor. Then on top of that, you come out here and you lie. You lied on Ilya and said that he was the one who attacked Trick and then attacked Carmelo. And then you say, oh, I don't remember. But then you all of a sudden remembered. No, baby. Stop your lies. Like, stop lying, Carmelo. Oh my God. It's just so sad. Like, I'm really going to need for Carmelo to just be real with himself. Be real with yourself. You know good and doggone well Ilya Dragunov did not do that. And Ilya just had this look on his face like Nene Leakes from the Real Housewives saying, now why am I in it? Like, that's literally what he was looking like. And I'm just gonna need for Carmelo to just stop these lies. Like, just stop them. And then he grabbed the title and then ejected from him, but then hit Trick. And then when Trick was reaching out for him, he was just staring at Ilya, and that's how the show ended. And I'm just like, stop. I know, yes, I know the last time I came on here on my own show, I held y'all hands and told y'all Carmelo was guilty. But I guess we're going to have to do this again because a lot of people online are still holding on to the hope that Carmelo didn't do it. And I'm going to let y'all look. Hands held again. Hold my hand. Put the hands on the screen if you need to. So you can feel connected to me. So you can feel my energy. You can love Carmelo and still hold him accountable for his actions, y'all. I love Carmelo. But baby, he did it. I don't know what other proof y'all need for y'all to understand. He did this. He attacked Trick Williams because he is threatened at the idea that his best friend is getting a bigger piece of the pie than him at the moment. And it's trash because a long time ago on NXT 2.0, Carmelo was saying all this stuff like, when I eat, he eats. But what makes you think Trick wasn't going to allow you to eat now that he's gotten his big piece of the pie? Like, what makes you think he was just going to leave you behind? He was going to still be your friend. So why are you acting like this? It doesn't make you any less successful or any less him if you're not the champion. But yet, somehow or another, you attack your best friend because he's getting more of a bigger piece of the pie than you, instead of being a person that's still supporting him and loving him the same way he supported and loved you in all of your success. You hate to see it. You really hate to see it. But baby, guess what? Pretty soon, we gonna have to get some proof. We gonna have to get some proof somewhere. But I'm telling you, I don't need the proof because I know he did it. And I mean it. When it comes out the Carmelo attack trick, all y'all owe me an apology. Every person that's ever fought me and said that, oh well, he didn't do it, he innocent, all y'all owe me a video apology. And that's exactly what I mean. A video apology. And that means you too, babe. You too. You gonna owe me an apology. Like, exactly, Jeffrey. He trying to eat the whole pie because he's selfish. It's stupid. Carmelo did it. But moving on to what else I like in wrestling this week. I love that Jasmine Allure, aka Jennifer Flores from WoW, made her debut on Ring of Honor at Ring of Honor Final Battle Friday. I wasn't able to watch it because it's a subscription service and I'm on the struggle bus right now. Um, but either way, I was happy to see that she actually had a match. Because she's someone who really did want to break out and have her own moment. Because she did leave WoW this, even though she might show up on a couple more episodes, she did leave WoW and say that she was going to bet on herself from now on, and now she's doing her own thing as Jasmine Allure, and I love that for her. Um, and like Jeffrey mentioned, she was also on AEW too, so I love that she was able to have that moment for herself. And then I also love that another wild girl, Glitch the Gamer, aka Vert Vixen, had a match against Nyla Rose. Now, this was really cool. I love that happened. And then on top of that, you have more women's wrestling awesomeness that happened on Ring of Honor in the form of Athena being the most dominant women's champion of the year, beating her former minion Billy Starks to retain the title. And this made history as the first, I believe, either the first or the second time a women's title match main evented a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. Um, and I think that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing for them, and it's amazing for her. And she deserves more flowers for how she has carried this title and carried Athena. Um, well, carried this title and basically carried Ring of Honor this entire year. Like, she deserves more flowers for that. And it's a shame because there's only so much accessibility you can have with it because there is a subscription service, but at the same time, it's still great to hear about. So I love that. No, I'm not a minion. No, I'm not a minion. I ain't a minion for nobody. I quit that this year. Um, I loved that she also came out with Bane gear. She came out dressed as Bane from Batman lore. And I think that's amazing because I feel like Bane is a character that doesn't get a lot of attention as a villain, but I thought this was cool. So big ups to Athena for doing the dang thing in Ring of Honor. Yeah, that's that stuff. And lastly, when it comes to SmackDown, um, a thing that I did love with the women is this segment that they had with Damage Control. It was a very dominant promo from all of these women, which is funny considering they did lose at War Games, but they're still trying to, maintain whatever level of dominance they have left. And Bayley is still trying to hold on to them for as long as she can and help them and still be instrumental in their victories. And she talked about, her motivations for starting Damage Control a year ago and how they wanted to just, be dominant over the entire women's division and how now it's going to be even greater now that they've added Asuka and Kairi Sane to the mix and how they are going to challenge for the women's tag team titles. And now Bayley has, I believe she's the first woman to declare for the Women's Royal Rumble so far. And she says she wants to win the Rumble and challenge Rhea Ripley for the Women's World title. Because as y'all can see, she didn't challenge Io for that Women's Championship that's right next to her. She want to challenge Rhea. And she wants all of Damage Control, they have all the gold. And I think that is an admirable goal to have. Is it going to happen? I doubt it, because Bailey is just now getting to the point to where she's back in Damage Control's good graces. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before they mess it up. She messes it up somehow. And it's not going to work no more. So, yeah, that's going to be real interesting to see if they maintain this level of dominance. But yeah, and then of course you have Dakota Kai, who's there but still not cleared to fight, but still being the X factor in a lot of their different matches and stuff. So this promo was really good. It definitely reiterated what their goals are as a faction, but I feel like it's not going to last that long, because somehow or another somebody going to mess something up and it's going to be a mess. Yep, Bailey is trying to save face. It's crazy, but that's where we're at. And then another thing that I love that I did mention on the show before was the fact that Zelina Vega and Mia Yim got to be a tag team on television, because we had been seeing them have dark matches over the past couple of weeks. And I mentioned on my show a few weeks ago that I wanted to see them wrestle on television more. And that definitely happened, because they fought the Kabuki Warriors. Now, I really would have loved it if they had won, but I still love that they were on television. So yeah, but hopefully they will win next week, because it's been announced that they're going to be a part of a 8-woman tag team match that's holiday themed. So I am excited about that, but I'm just really happy to see these talented women on television, even though in the first half of the match it felt like Mia Yim was getting beat up on a lot. But I am happy that her and Zelina did get to perform. So yeah, Jeffrey say I was gonna tag you on Friday that they finally using them on SmackDown. Yeah, I'm glad you thought of me, but because I thought it was real funny how I had talked about that um a weekend ago, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're on TV, and I was like, ah, you know, it was cool how that happened. But yeah. And then another thing that I want to discuss is the fact that even though Zelina is in tag team work right now, I love that she tweeted at Io Sky saying, I'm gonna take that title from you one way or another. Remember the tweet. And let me tell you something. If I can request anything else from WWE, it's the fact that I want Zelina Vega to be Miss Money in the Bank. I was really pushing for her to win it last year. But it turned out to be Io, and that was cool. But I want Zelina to be Miss Money in the Bank. I don't want her biggest moment to have been wrestling in Puerto Rico for Backlash, and then losing against Rhea and losing in front of her people. And then after that, there's nothing else. I want Zelina to be Miss Money in the Bank. Like, her faction fell apart this year. Like, she deserves something, and I want her to be Miss Money in the Bank, because I feel like it would just go with her crafty attitude. Like, it would just be great. So make Zelina Miss Money in the Bank next year, please. So yeah. And then of course we have the sad news of Charlotte, the 14-time champion, being injured in her knee and being out for 9 months. And this made me sad, because I enjoy watching Charlotte all the time. Um, a lot of people might have a lot of feelings about her when it comes to titles and stuff, but I feel like you're not a Flair if you're not a champion. So, um, I've been enjoying her being on television over the past couple of months, and the fact that now she's injured just makes me sad, because I was really hoping that somehow or another she would wind up getting the women's title, and then we would lead up to Bianca versus her, and then Bianca would finally have her opportunity to beat the last horsewoman. That was really my wish for WrestleMania next year, but I'm not sure what's going to happen now. So I just hope that Charlotte does feel better, because I will definitely miss her. Um, but this happens. People get hurt. Humans get hurt. But we also heal, and I just hope that she heals and gets better. Jeffrey saying this came at a bad time, so close to WrestleMania, so unfortunate. It really is. It really is. So we're sending big prayers and big love and energy for her wellness. Now, like I said earlier, you can love someone and hold them accountable at the same time. I love that Carmelo Hayes is having his moment on SmackDown and that he beat Grayson Waller in the United States title tournament. Um, Him and Grayson Waller have fought each other multiple times before. And he did talk about that on the SmackDown Lowdown with Kayla Braxton after the match. So I really do love that they had an amazing match, a really great match for free on television, but that's par for the course when it comes to Carmelo Hayes. He performs at a high level no matter what. And I just love the fact that he won this match because this is a big deal. Like, this is for the United States Championship, and him versus Logan Paul would be an amazing match. But then, speaking of Logan Paul, throughout the night when it came to this tournament, Logan Paul kept piping in, kept popping up in the corner of the screen talking trash about the other people in the tournament that he didn't like. And he talked trash about Carmelo Hayes and said that he didn't know who he was. And I said, I need to make the screen big again. And I said, when he said that, I was like, how dare you say that when you were the main one who culturally appropriated Carmelo and Ricochet's spot from Worlds Collide last year? Yeah, you may have done it with Ricochet at Royal Rumble, but let's be real. Carmelo and Ricochet did it first. So you gonna tell me that you don't know who Carmelo Hayes is? You a lie. You're terrible. Get out of here. You will not be disrespectful to him. Okay? Don't disrespect him. And I know I did just get through lambasting him for being guilty. I still think he's guilty, but that doesn't change the fact that he is talented. Okay? And he is the next best thing when it comes to wrestling. He is more decorated than you, Logan Paul. He has won multiple championships. He has gone up against the best of them, and he has proven that he is next up. Cody Rhodes called upon him to help him come back for a reason. What can you say, Logan Paul? You beat Rey Mysterio with brass knuckles? Shut up. Shut up. And then, yeah, Jeffrey, he said Melo don't miss. The only thing I missed was his career. That's because you ain't looking. You only missed his career because you ain't looking, because you feel like you're above looking at those people. But what's so funny is you ain't gonna miss his career if he messes around and wins this whole tournament and then beats you for that title. You ain't gonna miss him then. Logan Paul was just being mad disrespectful to Carmelo Hayes, and I hated that. The only thing I missed was his career. Well, yeah, that's because you got to skip the line and not go to NXT because of your name, sweetheart. Your name was literally all you had. And yeah, you trained privately because you are a celebrity, but Carmelo got it out the mud. So, shut up. Just shut up. That's why don't nobody like you. Moving on. Also, I like that Kevin Owens won against Austin Theory, but there is something else to Austin Theory that I'm wondering could help him, because even though he's been a heel for as long as he's been on the main roster, and even when he was on the main roster the first time before they sent him back to NXT, and he was a face for a little bit of a time with the Way, a part of me feels like, what would happen if Austin Theory just turned face completely and stayed there? Because him as a heel is like, it makes sense, but it's not enthralling enough to where it makes you want to just, have to look and see what he's gonna do. Like, I want Austin Theory to turn face, because on Instagram it's like you can see, him posting and talking about, how he started his wrestling career or whatnot, and how happy he is that he's gotten to this point. And I know that some people kind of felt that, I know Janelle from HR from Jobber Tears said at one point that she felt like, Austin Theory was getting the John Cena treatment and stuff like that when he was a prototype. I'm waiting to see if he's going to get the John Cena treatment in a way. What would happen if he actually turned completely face? Because there's something about him as a face that I would easily gravitate to a whole lot more than I am as a heel at this point. Because this man beat John Cena unfair at WrestleMania. But really, since then, that's really the biggest thing that he's had going for himself. Outside of him being drugged through the mud and saying your daddy's not here anymore. Like, he hasn't really had like a huge moment. And he got booked one time and that was it. So outside of him being with Grayson Waller, I want him to turn face. There's just something there that I feel like that's not being explored. He needs to be face. And Jeffrey is saying the problem with him is his promos aren't believable. Maybe they aren't believable because he's a nice person. Maybe there's a nice person that's lying beneath that's saying these mean things and he doesn't mean them. Maybe that's why he needs to turn face, because his heel stuff isn't believable. Maybe him as a face would be more believable. I don't know, but we gotta see. And then, of course, we have the curious case of Roman Reigns. Mr. Man showed up on SmackDown and he started the show. And when I tell you, I felt a sense of exasperation watching him after everything that has happened over the past few weeks with CM Punk coming back, Randy Orton coming back, we have LA Knight, we have Jey Uso, all these people. And then, of course, you have Cody Rhodes, all the people that we love. Roman Reigns comes back and it's just like, okay. You know, and it's just, and every time he starts a feud with somebody, it's like he looks shook and scared because he looks shook and scared at Randy Orton or whatnot. But inevitably, we know somehow or another, Roman Reigns is going to retain his title and he's going to keep it for 1,000 more days, and that's just going to be it. It's hard to get invested fully in Roman Reigns' stuff anymore because it's just like we have everybody else doing all these enthralling things. The only thing that all these other people are missing is just the title that deserves to be available for fighting for it. And it's not available because it's being held up by a man who's not there. But whatever. I just felt exasperated from having watching him on SmackDown. I was just like, okay, Roman, you're here, but everybody else has been here kicking all kinds of ass. So I'm starting to slowly feel like we don't need him as undisputed champion anymore. I don't think we need him as undisputed champion anymore. But yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about him at this point. So that's all I liked in wrestling this week. So we've reached the end of our time together. So I absolutely positively thank all of you for joining me on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for your support in my wrestling career. So of course, if you are looking for someone to book for commentary, for panelist work at Comic-Cons, or a writer or a host or a guest for your show, know that you can book me by DMing me at Queen Steph Hardy on Instagram and on X/Twitter. And you can email me at hardywrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. I am available for 2024. So if you are looking to book me for either one of those things, I am more than happy to do so. I will talk about rates and everything, and we can get it cracking. Because, of course, the way that I talk about wrestling is very positive and it's very chill, but it's also very engaging and electric and exciting and passionate. So if you're looking for exciting and passionate commentary, then I am your girl. Book me, book me, book me. 2024 is a new year. Let's get new voices out here. Also, on Wednesdays now, Steph and Cat Talk WoW is taking place on WoW Wednesdays. We had to move it from Monday because I have a new job and I need to reschedule things. So we moved it to Wednesdays. So it's been a time, having it on Mondays. It's been fun, but of course, life is life, and you got to make adjustments. And Steph and Cat Talk WoW will now be live on Wednesdays at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central Standard Time. So please be on the lookout. If you enjoy the action of WoW Women of Wrestling Superheroes, watch our post show. It is so much fun. We love it. There's honesty and there's love for women's wrestling in that show. So please check it out. Also, read my articles on Daily DDT. My most recent one was actually on Gigi Dolan and JC Jane and what their journey has been like a year removed since Mandy Rose was released from WWE. So please check out that article as well as this article that I wrote about Seth Rollins and his title reign possibly ending with CM Punk. Just read all of my Daily DDT articles. It's been the joy of my life getting to write and create with the Daily DDT team. Shout out to Raphael and Chris for letting me cook things while also writing about, what it is that they give me. Like, I really enjoy it. So please read my articles, read them, read them, read them. And I'm just really happy, for the growth that I've had as a writer, and hopefully it will continue to happen more and more. And of course, if you love merchandise that is interesting and feeds into your love of wrestling, buy my Alabama wrestling fighters t-shirts, which is of course highlighting Alabama icons in wrestling, such as Sensational Sherry, Teddy Long, like I mentioned before, Kayla Braxton, Paul Bearer, Deborah, AQA, and Fuego del Sol. Please buy the t-shirts and buy the hoodies. They're available in the colors of red and black. They come in all sizes. You can go on foryourwear.com/Hardy Wrestling Podcast and buy yourself a hoodie or a t-shirt. And also, you can buy my Beyonces t-shirts, which celebrates the love of Bianca and Montez Ford. You can wear that just in time for their reality show, which is premiering in February. And you can buy my Bold and the Bloodline t-shirt, celebrating one of the greatest wrestling storylines of all time involving the Anoa'i family bloodline. Buy that merch at foryourwear.com/Hardy Wrestling Podcast. So, with that in mind, thank you guys so much for joining me on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. And I'm going to leave you guys with an inspirational word from Miss Kenny from TikTok with a really important message. So, bye, y'all.
God bless beautiful women with big personalities who are having to exist in small minded spaces. God bless bubbly babes with big bright lights that people are constantly trying to put out. And I hope you get a smidgen of a break from being perceived. I hope your light blinds the people who want to put it out before you ever decide to dim it. I hope every time somebody turns their nose up to you or makes a face without realizing that you saw them make a face at you for your personality and who you are, I hope every time that happens, your confidence grows 10 times. I hope you eventually find a space where you're not just appreciated for your likenesses and similarities to the people in those spaces, but I hope you are accepted for your differences and the things that are unique about you, the exact things that make people want to dig out your light and dim it and crush it and turn it off. I hope you never come home another day feeling like you are too much for a space or not enough. I hope you overcome that feeling of thinking that you are sharing too much of yourself, because every time you open up, there's always somebody there who's trying to make you feel small. God bless the beautiful babes with big, bubbly, bright personalities who people love to try to diminish, figure out, and sabotage because of their own insecurity.